Recording starter. All right, perfect. Please use the Q&A chat box for any questions that you have. Jason and Sydney will be addressing all your questions towards the very end. Lastly, we all value feedback. There's a survey at the very end. I tested it myself before we started out. And if you're not a big fan of paragraphs, it shouldn't take you more than 40 seconds to finish the survey. So please let us know how we can make this a better experience for our installer network. But again, look forward to this really exciting session. Jason, the stage is all yours.
Thanks, Abby. Appreciate it. I'm going to quickly share my screen and we'll get up and running here. So you can verify that you can see my screen. Good to go. Awesome.
Good to go.
Well, we're excited to present to you today. Just wanted to start with a very brief introduction in case you're not familiar with who APsystems is. So we were founded in Silicon Valley about 13 years ago. We're a global provider of module level power electronics for the solar industry. We're headquartered in 4 global business units. So in the US, we're based out of Austin, Texas. In Europe, our HQ there is in Amsterdam. In Latin America, it's in Guadalajara, and APAC, we're based out of 2 primary offices in mainland China, as well as Sydney, Australia. Some key facts about APsystems. So we're one of the global leaders in solar microinverters, especially when it comes to multi-module microinverters. That's where we really shine. That's what we're known for. We have getting close to 4 gigawatts installed globally. We're now approaching 3 million microinverters total installed. Our systems, our microinverter and RSD systems, are connected to over 10 million solar panels around the world. We serve customers in over 100 countries, and then as well as several 100,000 residential, commercial, individual installations worldwide, and on some third-party financing ABLs, as you can see there. So I'd like to introduce you to the APsystems residential solution. We're going to spend most of our time talking about this very special DS3 microinverter that you see in the top right, as well as briefly touch on our ECUR gateway and our EMA platform in the cloud. We also have a commercial solution. It's our QT2 microinverter. It's a 3-phase microinverter that we'll also briefly touch on. So what is the DS3? The DS3 stands for D is dual input, S is for split phase or single phase in the US market. 3 is the 3rd generation of that product. It's a dual module microinverter, so it connects to 2 PV modules. It comes in 3 different flavors, and we're going to talk about how we arrived at those different outputs. But the DS3S is ideal for those PV modules at about 400 watts plus. We always put the plus there just in case somebody's like, well, can I put a 420 on it? Like, yes, you can. It's not going to negatively impact the inverter. So depending on what you prefer as an installer for your oversize ratio, your AC to DC ratio, we've used in all the calculations that you'll see here, 1.25, kind of a general rule. I've heard 1.2, I've heard 1.3, 1.4, depending on what you prefer for your business, that oversize ratio. If you have any questions about that too, we can address that at the end of the call. Again, connects to 2 PV modules. It's got a built-in Zigbee wireless chip that we'll talk about. UL 1741 SB compliant for California, and built-in rapid shutdown compliance. So let's talk about how we reach that DS3 output. Why is, and it's part of our differentiator. So that's why I'm really going to be going into some detail on that. So what we had found with many of our installers is they were discovering about 40 amps were available on most service panels for residential installations. That means 2 strings, each put on a 20 amp breaker, or 2 circuits, if you will. And that was kind of the maximum that they could put on there, sometimes 60 amps before the homeowner would have to upgrade their panel, which is expensive. So you're trying to utilize what space that they have available on their existing panel. So as we know with NEC code, you can only load those breakers a certain amount. You can put 16 amps on a 20 amp breaker. So it's maximum of 80% load. So that for our microinverters, our DS3L, that was we were able to put 5 microinverters on each 16 amp string, and that kind of gave us the amperage that we need to achieve for each microinverter. And you compare that with the 13 to 16 units that are required with competing systems. So if we take amps times volts, that gave us the output for each of those microinverters and the number of watts per channel. So when we look at that panel sizing, that 1.25 ratio, and I apologize, it's probably a little early in the day for all this math, but we're going to get through it. I promise it's worth it. It's ideal for PV modules at about 480 watts. So let's go into a direct comparison. I want to call your attention to this second row, which is that AC to DC ratio of what you would pair that PV module with that microinverter. The DS3L and DS3S are ideal PV module pairing about 480 or 400 or even beyond. And with the IQ7 and IQ8, it's about 300. The IQ7 Plus and 8 Plus is 365. So this told us that that generation of products just really isn't designed to accommodate those higher capacity PV modules. And they do have some models that can accommodate that. They're simply twice the price. So when you look at the number of units that are on each circuit to accommodate those PV modules, it starts off with our DS3L, which is 5 or 6 for our S, but it takes 13 to 16 units for the IQ series. And significantly, and the same amount of PV modules, but when you look at the output, the total output for APsystems comes out to 3,840. Now that's matched by the IQ7 and 8, but it's not, that output isn't matched by the 7 Plus and 8 Plus. So even to hit that amount, if I can call your attention to these next lines, which is on 2 circuits, it takes 20 of our microinverters, 24 DS3S, and 32 of the IQ7. So you come out to 2.5 to 3 times as many inverters that are needed and 30 to 60% more PV modules. So when we talk about that total watts output, that is the great equalizer for all residential systems. Whether you're us or Enphase, you can put the 16 amps on a 20 amp circuit times the 240 volts. That gives you that AC out from the microinverter, whether you're us or Enphase or anybody. You multiply that by 2 circuits, you're delivering to the homeowner 7,680 watts. So that's about 9,600 to 10,000 watts DC on the roof. So how do we achieve that? Well, with APsystems, it's 10 of these DS3Ls, it's 20 PV modules. But with Enphase, it's 26 of their inverters, 26 PV modules. This is for their 7 Plus and 8 Plus. But even then, they still cap out at 7540. They don't actually hit the full 7680, as I mentioned. In order to do that, it takes 32 of their IQ7 or IQ8 microinverters and 32 PV modules. It's a significant difference, 3 times as many microinverters, 60% more PV modules. So this is how much you as an installer would have to purchase, transport, install, just to achieve that same AC output to the homeowner. So let's just talk about the panel difference alone. So we have 32 PV modules required for the Enphase solution, 20 for the APsystems. Now, granted, these are larger PV modules. Tried to make them a little bit larger on the screen here. But the 32, these are about 365s. The 20s are about 480 watts. They are larger panels. However, 20 of the 480 watt PV modules are actually 100 square feet less overall than 32 of the 365 watt PV modules. So again, this is doing more with less. And imagine if you have a home installation where you want some south facing roof and it can't take 32 PV modules. Also, in terms of equipment, the numbers that we've seen, it's $500 to $2,000 less in total module cost. So not only are we competitive, very competitive on the inverter cost, we tend to come in 20 to 30% lower in overall cost than competing solutions, but you're also saving significant money on the PV modules as well. So in the comparison with Enphase, APsystems is producing the same energy or more with less equipment. We can also pair with those higher capacity PV modules that the 7 and 8 and 7 Plus and 8 Plus cannot. APsystems also, by nature of being a dual module microinverter, installs significantly faster, up to 4 times faster with our 4-in-1 microinverter for 3-phase. Obviously, fewer units to stock, transport, and install. And then there's also the comparison of Zigbee versus PLC. So PLC is an outdated technology that requires communication through the power line. But since the NEC requirements for adding arc fault breakers in every living space, it's increasingly difficult to find a way that the signal can travel through a home to get to the gateway without reaching any kind of interference. So we went completely wireless with it. So what does this mean for solar installers? With APsystems, it means you can win the bid for the same energy output. Or you can also lower your bid if you have a competing bid, and you can make more money at the same time. So APsystems will save you money on the inverters, on install time, on the panels. APsystems simply creates a competitive advantage for solar installers. And I also want to plug our QT2. So the Q stands for quad, so it serves 4 PV modules. T is for the 3-phase. It's the 2nd generation of this product. And it comes in 2 different versions as well, the 208 model and the 480 volt model. It's good for pairing with PV modules that are 550 to 565. You can put a 600 watt PV module on that. That's a fine oversizing. It's a native 3-phase. So it's got 5 wires in the cable, line 1, 2, 3, neutral, and ground, all built in. Phase balanced, phase monitored, UL 1741 SB for California markets, and again, built-in rapid shutdown compliance. So let's talk about why microinverters and C&I applications. It's funny, I've presented some of this information on the QT2 at trade show. And one thing that we've discovered is there's just a myriad of just preconceptions that people have about microinverters. They're like, for commercial? No, that doesn't make sense. No, microinverters are too expensive. It's too long of an install. They're not powerful enough. That's a residential product. Goes on and on. We've specifically built this QT2 for commercial installers to be able to handle the output, to be able to streamline installation. Let's start with the first and the biggest. Microinverters are too expensive. Today's microinverters have gone down significantly in cost. Plus, we built a 4-in-1 microinverter, which does not cost the same as 4 individual microinverters. It's significantly less expensive. Plus, if you add in the cost of having to use a string inverter plus rapid shutdown device, we've seen our bids come within 1 to 3% competing in price, even up to a megawatt scale. So significant difference in pricing for microinverters these days. The difficulty in installation, it's a 4-in-1 microinverter, so it's actually a faster installation than either one individual rapid shutdown device or one individual optimizer on a rooftop. Not powerful enough will the QT2 actually compare with the PV modules well up to and over 600 watts. Shading is another preconception that it's just used for sites that have shading. I would argue that shading comes in many forms. So dirt, dust, cloudy or rainy days. We've seen some sites with bird droppings. If you regularly have somebody come out, say once a year, to do maintenance or cleaning on the panels, it justifies microinverters because they perform better under all those conditions. Also, another myth, too many inverter units decreases reliability. So yeah, when you have that many devices, such as rapid shutdown for each panel or an optimizer for each panel, say on a 100 panel system, you have 100 of those devices. Well, with a microinverter, you have 25. So you have 75% fewer devices. That increases your reliability. And just briefly touch on our gateway that we have, very comparable with competing solutions. Again, it's got that Zigbee communication to the inverters, but then the backhaul to the routers, either Wi-Fi or Ethernet, also cellular capable, which I know is important, especially for commercial installations. Our ECUC that we have also offers consumption monitoring. It's a primary difference with this gateway device. Communication architecture, as I mentioned, so the panels connect to the microinverter. That production is communicated via Zigbee to the ECU. Great thing about the Zigbee is it creates a mesh network. So you don't have to reach your furthest microinverter. You just have to reach the closest one. And then they all communicate through each other to get the signal back to the gateway. The ECU, then you have your backhaul to the site owner's router, and then it provides that information to our EMA portal in the cloud. And very briefly, this is a very similar architecture that you see with other systems, as you have your kind of mainline AC trunk cable, where you would plug in each microinverter to it. If you're not using a particular, like one side of the microinverter, we have these DC caps that you can use. And then obviously we have connectors. You don't typically see it in the middle here. You would typically see that at the end, so you can extend your home run if you like. And also with DC extension cables, all these available. They're all available from APsystems. You can also find out more information about our accessories by going online, clicking on our product section, and going right down to accessories. And that will open up a page for all of our accessories where you can find significantly more detail. Even drawings with specifications on each of those accessories and cables. And then our EMA platform in the cloud that provides all of that around-the-clock monitoring so that you can, you and your homeowner users can see all their system performance, even at a module level. But some of the key features that we have in the portal for installers can show a significant amount of detail to help inform you if there is any kind of an issue. You'll be able to actually troubleshoot it there. You can determine whether or not something is a disconnected cable, if it's a bad panel, if there's poor communication. And so that if there were some issue where you had to roll a truck out to a site, you would know exactly where it is and what the issue is before you even left. And then all of that functionality is also available in the palm of your hand with our EMA Manager app. And I just want to give you a sneak preview of what we're going to be launching at the upcoming RE Plus show in Vegas. APsystems is launching its very first storage solution. We call it AP Storage. And that includes, as part of the overall architecture, obviously our DS3 microinverters, but they're not a required part of the storage solution. You can actually have other systems on your roof. This is the key part of it is our ELS power conversion system, or PCS. We have two different versions that we will be launching at the show. We have the 5K PCS, which is currently available for systems. You can pair up to two of these together to create 10K to connect to up to 20 kilowatt hours in batteries. And we're also soon to be releasing our 11.4K PCS. And then we have an AP battery. One thing that's unique about APsystems is APsystems is battery agnostic. So if you have a battery that you prefer, say it's a Fortress or a Home Grid, our charger, our ELS system is already compatible with those models. So we have tested compatibility with those systems, and any other battery types that you prefer. If we don't have that testing, going on right now, we can fit that in for testing, because we want to make sure that our product is compatible with the current and most popular brands that are available on the market today. So it's something that you won't see with most competing systems, is being compatible with multiple battery types. And we just want to make sure that communication happens. If you don't have a battery preference, we have our AP battery that we can slide in for you. So some key APsystems takeaways. APsystems generate the same or more power with less equipment on the roof. You can reduce your costs on equivalent system size. You can create a competitive advantage for your company. We also encourage you to check out our QT2 for 3-phase installations. We've really tried to make it plug and play and make it simplified for installers. And then obviously our AP storage energy solution that we're excited to be launching here soon. Some other APsystems resources. On our website, we have a support page in case you have any questions. There's a training page in case you want to get up to speed on the latest and greatest on APsystems technology. We encourage you to hit our registration page. For those that are interested in moving forward, that's your next big step. It's just sign up as an APsystems installer. It doesn't cost anything. You just go to the website, request an account. We'll get you right into the EMA. And that way, if you do start installing, your system is, or your online account is ready to go. We have a product documentation library. It even has our data sheets, our manuals, our certifications in there in case you are ever working with an AHJ and they have questions. And obviously our YouTube channel has a lot of great information as well. All of our latest videos, answering a lot of questions too. And I'm just going to hover on this page for a little bit. So you can either take a shot with your phone. I know Abby and the Energy Sage team is going to make sure that you get a copy of this, but some of those key things are here available to you. Just in case you have any questions, we want to make sure that we're answering. And that's it for me. So I appreciate the time. I want to answer some of your questions now. So yeah, feel free to use that Q&A chat box.
Perfect, Jason. Thanks a lot. That was very well paced. Great information in there. We do have a few questions lined up here, and maybe get started. But for the rest of the folks who joined in a little later, please use the Q&A chat box to ask any questions. Right, Jason, Sydney, a few questions here. The first one is the interference of the radio system likely to cause any disruption on small devices like Bluetooth speakers and other devices that you use in your home in the 2.4 gigahertz category?
We haven't seen any interference issues. We have an FCC compliance certificate for all of our systems to make sure that there isn't any interference. The only thing that we have seen is occasionally there's some signal disruption. If you have a lot of concrete to go through, or if you have metal roof, you need to make sure that you're repositioning that gateway so that it can communicate. Sometimes that's just like moving it to a location inside where there's a window, or moving it to an outdoor box. If you have a commercial system where you're putting it on a rooftop, sometimes you need to put it in an enclosure up there as well.
Got it. I guess the next question here is, are the micros RSD compliant, and is the compliance dependent on the Zigbee by any chance?
The answer is yes, they are RSD compliant. So the requirement for rapid shutdown the 690.12. It requires that any of the systems that are over 80 volts in output meet those needs. And because microinverters are each below that threshold, they're inherently compliant, every microinverter. So we don't need to worry about that. And it's not managed at all through the Zigbee. As soon as the microinverters detect that AC is no longer present, they shut down. It's part of their programming. They shut down. I think it has to be within 10 seconds. These shut down within milliseconds. So even without that, they're still compliant.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Jason, I'm sure you'd love a couple of these questions I'm going to line up now. How does the warranty compare to Enphase? And is there any plans for APsystems to make a competitive IQ8 self-forming grid feature that Enphase currently offers?
So I can't necessarily speak to the self-forming grid feature that we may or may not have under development at this time, but I can speak to the warranty. We definitely have a comparable warranty. Our products come 10 years standard with, you can increase that by 15 years to reach a full 25-year warranty on the system. So we kind of give you the options depending on whether or not you want to have a 10-year warranty and upgrade at some point in the future, or have a full 25 years.
Got it. Jason, I talk to a lot of my installers, and I think for them, one thing that's really important is also the reliability side of things. And I know APsystems done due diligence on these products. Do you guys rely on third-party testing and reliability as well when it comes to testing under extreme conditions or extended, hours when it comes to, putting under different environments?
Yes, I love this question. Any installer doing their due diligence should be asking for those test reports. Both of these products are new as of this year, so our systems are currently under test with RETC Labs. Those lab reports are going to be available. We're going to post them on our website as soon as they are available. But we have our previous generation of each of these products. Those lab reports are available. So it's not for the current product, but is indicative of the type of performance you can expect from APsystems. Previous reports were done by DNVGL, and anyone that wants a copy of that report, we're happy to provide those.
Perfect. Yeah, I think on the module side of things, inverters, storage, I think third-party authorization and reliability is becoming more important than ever. So that's great. That's great that APsystems is already working with a few of those big labs there. Let's move to the next question here, Jason. Is the ECU-C available and working for residential installs? I know it was only available for three-phase.
Correct. Yeah, it is only available for three-phase because the CTs, the consumption monitoring, it works for three-phase and for single phase, but not for split phase. So when we say single phase, it means something different elsewhere throughout the world than it does here. It simply doesn't work for 240 split phase.
Got it.
Good question.
What's the max? Yeah. What's the maximum wattage per panel on the residential? So it's more for the DS3. What's the maximum wattage? And can it do 575 wattage panels?
One of the models that I didn't touch a lot on was the DS3 without any initial afterward. And the output of that inverter can handle 575 watt PV modules. We've seen some installers do it. It's not as common just because those are very large panels and not every house can accommodate that. But if you have them, you can definitely do it. So yeah, check out our website. The spec on the DS3 will tell you how many PV modules can go on each circuit, and kind of what that pairing is. Another thing I should plug too is on our website, we have a section under our support page or resources page that has our apps. At the very bottom of our apps page is a PV module compatibility calculator. So you can plug in all the information on PV modules that you are interested in using and see which APsystems microinverters those modules are compatible with. And it's a great way to get a lot of those questions answered. And if you're not sure, just email our support team.
That's amazing. And I'm probably gonna tee up that question with a follow-up here, Jason. Uh, I think modules have continued to grow in size, different form factors, different cell sizes, right? We're moving to those G12 wafers now.
Yes.
I guess a more broader question for you, Jason, from me here is, uh, do inverter manufacturers talk closely with module manufacturers when it comes to designing products that is actually aligned with their product line as well? Or is it still two different parallel paths and they have to eventually meet one day?
We've seen both. We've seen with us, we really try to look at the landscape of what module companies are doing today, and always look at the forefront. So we make sure that our products are compatible with 60, 72, 96 cell bifacial panels, half cut or split cell panels, and then also that next generation of PV modules that's coming out, where we can handle up to 20 amp input on our products, which is the highest in the industry right now. So we're constantly trying to be forward looking. There are some panel manufacturers that really push that envelope, and like, there's no inverter that can pair with this, but we're going to make it anyway. It eventually becomes the tail that wags the dog. But yeah, it's we try to do our best to make sure we have that compatibility. But that's why we created that module compatibility calculator, so that people can just double check and verify.
Yeah, that's going to be really useful and resourceful when it comes to doing the designs. Where can I get your products, and which distributors today are carrying your products?
Yeah, so we have well over 20 national distributors are carrying our products. So you can find out those if you go to our website, usa.apsystems.com. You can look under our partner page to see all of our current partners. We also have a how to order section. So if you click on that, it'll actually bring up a map of the United States. You can type in your zip code, and it'll show you all the APsystems distributors that are closest to you. And you'd be able to find out which ones are nearest, and see what kind of deal they might offer you. You might currently be buying from them already.
Yeah, it's awesome. I guess this next question, and maybe it'd be great, Jason, if you can redo the math for us. So Adam here missed the technical explanation of how you end up with fewer panels.
Sure.
I get why fewer micros, because each of yours cover multiple panels here.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess a follow-up, is it just that your micros can handle higher wattage of panels? So
Yes,
can you go back to
that's
that
exactly
savings
it.
page?
Yeah. Let me change here and see if we can go to that page. So is this the one you're referring to? Yeah, so if you look at the output from 10 of our DS3Ls, it's equal to the output from 32 of their microinverters. So if you imagine, simplify the math, this is a 1 amp microinverter, ours is a 3 amp microinverter. So when you combine, or 3.2 amps, when you combine 10 of ours together, you get the same output as 32 of theirs. The PD module pairing, though, it requires that these are higher output PV modules. So that's why these need to be 480 or higher, that we recommend 460 or higher. And for the PV modules for pairing with Enphase, 365 is about where their sweet spot is. So it takes up significantly, it uses less panels, but takes up less room, and it costs the installer less overall to create the same output for the homeowner.
Got it. Thanks, Jason. Does the residential and/or commercial monitoring send us alerts, or do we just have to periodically check? So how does fleet management typically work there, Jason?
That's exactly it. So you have customizable alerts that you can create in our EMA. And so, yeah, all of that is adjustable. We have some webinars too that are available in our training section, where you can find out exactly how to do all that. Also give you some basics on how to troubleshoot. You'd be shocked at how many things can be resolved without ever having to roll a truck.
It's amazing. Uh, do you recommend any design softwares that helps you analyze the AC output, which is panels for Enphase versus any other system? Would you recommend anything there, Jason?
Yes. So right now, APsystems is available on all the major platforms. So I think recently we got, we've been on Aurora for over a year now, but we also just did a double check verifying that works. So our team makes sure that they go through regularly and check those design systems just to make sure that when the analysis comes up side by side, that our engineers go through and verify, and yeah, that's exactly it.
Perfect. Awesome. A few more lined up here. If one module is connected to a micro, does it perform at half the AC-DC ratio, or does it remain the same?
So that's a good question. So if one side of because it's two MPPTs, so you're not dealing with one, so you don't have to worry about that. So yeah, each channel of the microinverter acts as an individual microinverter. So that's part of the benefit of having the multiple MPPTs, so that you can literally cap one side of it and the other side will perform normally.
Got it. Great questions, everyone here.
Yeah, I love these questions.
I think it really sees that how can you make a compelling case with a really superior product here that actually is meeting your requests or your demands here, right? So this is great. Keep the questions coming in. A couple more here, Jason. Is it possible to get consumption monitoring for the residential offerings
Yeah,
of the
so
ES3?
we have an add-on for our ECUR, and it's actually a chint meter that we have that you can just plug right in. And so it's a new add-on for the product. So you just need to ask your distributor about it. That they can get it either through us, or if they can't do that, we'll work to get it direct.
Got it. Perfect. And do you see any advantage in reducing clipping when it comes to using your micros with overall comparable systems?
Well, because if we're talking apples to apples, the clipping should be about the same if you're properly oversizing. And there's quite a bit of, in fact, I think I have a slide on it if I can just digress for a moment of why the clipping is important and talk about that oversize ratio. Since we have a little bit of time, the oversizing is important because you have a couple of conditions that happen. One, you have over 25 years that these systems are warranted for, you have degradation in the panel over time. So you want to make sure that by the 24th year that performance is still contributing to the system. You also want to make sure that you have increased energy production in the shoulders of the curve, and we're going to talk about what that looks like. So if you have an AC output from the inverter of 320 watts, which is our DS3S, if you had a 300 watt PV module, we have some installers that pair it with like sized PV modules. And sure, you don't have any clipping, but you also have a lackluster performance over your entire system. And the reason is, if we were to overlay on that 300 watt PV module a 400 watt PV module, you'll see from this that the inverter clips it at 320 watts. So this is what you are losing due to the clipping. But I want to call your attention to what you are picking up in the shoulders of the energy curve with that larger oversized panel. So on a 320 watt inverter output, pairing a 400 watt PV module means you lose what's in red, but you gain what is coming in the shoulders of the curve, that blue area, which really dwarfs what you are losing from the clipping. And that's what you are wanting to do. You want to make sure that you're picking up enough energy in the shoulders of the curve from that oversizing. And that also means that over time that you're also going to be capturing more energy. Another consideration is a 400 watt PV module that's rated. That is the STC. listing on that PV module. The PTC is something completely different. So if you go to the CEC website, the inverter listings, you'll see 400 watt PV module, and then you'll see the PTC. That's more real world performance, and it'll say 370, depending on the model of the PV module. So that's another thing to keep in mind. It's not going to be apples to apples. 400 watt PV module is not going to deliver 400 watts.
Yep. Thanks, Jason, for the deep dive there.
You bet.
Is it possible to get a cellular service for monitoring? And the installer adds, thinking of adding these to a ground mount project, which is about 300 yards away from the home and doesn't get good Wi-Fi?
Yeah, we can definitely help connect you with the cellular dongle that you would need for that. And then we leave it up to you for whatever carrier that you prefer you may be doing business with, that you can just get whatever service plan is going to be ideal for you and for your end user customer.
That's perfect. I actually wasn't aware of that. Thanks, Jason, and great question there. For the add-on for the ECU for monitoring, do you need to do anything different on the EMA app to enable the consumption monitoring, or is it detected automatically?
That's actually a great question. I don't know if it's detected automatically or if it has to be enabled, but we can definitely take a look at that and have someone on our team get back to you.
Yeah,
either way, it would be a simple flip of a switch.
Got it. I don't see any further questions. I had a couple of questions on my end, Jason, and I'll probably represent my installers here. Can you talk us through what does product availability look like? If I am interested in APsystems, how soon do I have it?
Great question. So product availability, we have the vast majority of our distributors, whether it's a Green Tech or Kranick or Fortune or whoever, they're all stocking distributors. So it's one of the things that we require. Even if they weren't, our product, we have a significant difference in shipping times from our warehouse to our distributor partners. So our competitors, I think they, 4 to 6 weeks or 6 to 8 weeks. There were some years where it's like 15 weeks. We ship usually, if we have the product available, it's within 72 hours. So even if your distributor does not have it in stock, they'll get it within 3 or 4 days. So sometimes less. So that's the product availability locally. If your projects are large enough, you could take a look at like container loads, container sizes, to see if you can go direct with APsystems. So you just reach out to our team to see if you qualify for that. And usually we're talking one container has thousands of microinverters that would serve thousands of PV modules. So typically you see that either on larger residential projects or commercial projects. But that would those would come direct from our factory, and those are several weeks in lead time.
Got it. That's great. Awesome. Okay, looks like there's no other questions. So Jason, Sydney, this has been amazing. Let's thank our speakers here. Great presentation here, Jason. I think I personally at least learned the suite of products, and again, how the entire idea of whole home electrification with regards to having the entire inverter, load management, storage all lined up. So this has been great. And again, thank you everyone for your time and attention. I hope you learned more about APsystems offerings. And again, reach out to Jason and his team. Great team there. Would be happy to provide you any form of assistance on next steps here. Again, there's a survey at the very end. Please fill it out and let us know what you think about these webinars. And look out for that webinar. Look out for that webinar recording and slides by tomorrow. Jason, Sydney, been a pleasure. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.